Hey everybody, Terrence here. I just wanted to take a moment because it is actually a very special month that oftentimes goes overlooked. It's actually Homelessness Awareness Month. The month of November is Homelessness Awareness Month. You know, many organizations and individuals who actually acknowledge this month around the country and even in the city and state just take time to acknowledge the lives of those who have had the courage to endure, survive, and even have succumbed to the plight of homelessness. There are organizations and individuals who actually gather to do visuals because many people who are unhoused actually lose their lives in the colder months to hypothermia, and some people who are unhoused lose their lives because they don't have enough medication or the right medication because they don't have access to health care or they can't afford their medication. There are other individuals who lose their lives just living outside in the element, maybe being dehydrated. Earlier this season for the Imagine Dignity podcast, I got a chance to interview a brother by the name of Melvin, who is actually a friend, who told me candidly that one day he was just like praying for somebody to bring him some water. I mean, I want you to sit with that for a moment, because could you imagine not being able to walk over to your sink or refrigerator that has access to instant water, or being outside and it's freezing cold and you don't have the proper jacket or blanket or anywhere to go because there are not enough beds available in the local shelter, or even not even enough shelters available. So many people across this country suffer from this plight, not in ways just only because they don't have a house, but like it really impacts their physical well-being, like every aspect of who they are as a person. I've talked to many individuals who are living on the streets or who have overcome homelessness, and one of the key issues that they always raise is just basically saying like, I just can't find rest. And it's not just about like finding somewhere safe to sleep. They're also talking about like rest in, you know, having mental clarity, rest in having emotional capacity, rest in just not feeling bogged down and tired in your physical body. And I think rest, when we look at rest or when we think about rest, rest is about wellness. Rest is how we, you know, find the strength to tackle a hard week. Rest is how we find strength to go after a goal or pursue another dream. Rest is how we rejuvenate ourselves and just refresh ourselves. There's so many things that are associated with rest. I mean, just think about it. When was the last time you felt burned out, right? And you just needed what? Rest. For Homelessness Awareness Month, normally people think about it, but they don't have any practical steps as to like what they can do in this month to actually stand in solidarity with people who are unhoused. So I've jotted down a list for you, things that you can do just to stand in solidarity with people who are experiencing this plight, not just in the United States, but all across the globe, because homelessness is a global issue. Firstly, I think we need to reframe how we talk about those who are unhoused. And what I mean by that is using person-first language that elevates the humanity of the person over the struggle that they're actually experiencing. You know, oftentimes we see people say homeless people or like bums, or call so many people who are without an address like derogatory names, and that tramples on one's sense of self-worth as well as a person's dignity. And I think just starting with understanding that we need to change our language is essential. So I actually say a person experiencing homelessness or an unhoused person, because I never want to put the label before the humanity of the person. And I think reframing language just kind of centers us in understanding that these are not problems. These are people who are going through problems. You can volunteer at a local organization or at a shelter. I think this is essential. There are so many different ministries and nonprofit organizations that are doing phenomenal work in this area. And I think lending your hands is always an added bonus to those people who are doing the work. You can come volunteer with us if you're in Atlanta with Love Beyond Walls. But I think just giving your time and your talent can help, you know, advance the mission of local organizations who are actually making a real-time impact in the lives of people who are unhoused or experiencing homelessness. So the third thing I wrote down was build a relationship. And let me tell you what I mean. So I talked about volunteerism. Volunteerism is a great container for you to actually be proximate with the population, but also use this as a way to build relationship with the people that you encounter through the vehicle of the organization or group or wherever you're doing volunteer work. But another way is to build relationships with the individual that you may see on the street corner. I mean, you could start with something as simple as asking a person their name, or keeping a hygiene bag in the car or information card in the car, or asking, hey, do you need something extra or some type of support, and offering some of those items that you keep handy with you. Another way is like you could build a relationship through a simple gift card. I've talked to so many different people who have used, this simple practice of keeping a loaded gift card for like a Subway to engage a person who is unhoused, but also to spark conversation. And it's not just to spark conversations about a person's struggle or suffering. Spark conversations that you would have with your everyday friend. Like, you gotta remember that people who are unhoused or without an address are people. Like, they have likes and dislikes and fears and dreams and hopes and aspirations and things that scare them. And I think sometimes we separate ourselves and don't see our humanity wrapped up in their humanity because they may not have an address. But that's far from the truth. Like, these are real people who are longing to be in community with others. And you never know how far it will go just to call somebody by their name. Acknowledgement is powerful, it's revolutionary actually, because you get a chance to say, I see you, right? I see the very essence of who you are as a person. I see you in your struggle. Not only do I see you, I acknowledge that you are important, that you're worth it, and that you belong, right? And that's powerful. Building relationships are so powerful. Another thing that I jotted down, which is number 4, is you can talk about this on social media. There's so many people posting things about whether political or lifestyle or things that they ate or random thoughts on their mind. But what about posting about an issue like homelessness that oftentimes goes overlooked? Why not spend one day just sharing information about maybe a stat or something that you learned about homelessness? Because this raises the consciousness of those who may be unaware about this plight. There's so many people who don't even know that this is Homelessness Awareness Month, and I think a social post could go a long way. Another thing that I jotted down, which is number 5, attend some type of educational workshop or panel. Like, I'm hosting a panel for a couple colleges and doing discussions, but you can actually type in homeless panel discussions on the internet and find out what's going on in the area to see who's talking about this subject in a way where you can increase your knowledge base to really understand what's going on about the plight and the trajectory of homelessness in your city or in the United States of America, because homelessness is actually increasing by the day. It's not declining. There are more cases or new cases of homelessness that we've ever seen at any point in history. And these cases are not chronic cases of homelessness. They're actually people who have never been unhoused a day in their lives. And so I think attending a workshop or some type of panel discussion will just increase your knowledge, or even buy a book to just be a primer on the subject itself. I actually wrote a book called I See You, How Love Opens Our Eyes to Invisible People. That's a great start. It's a great resource, but I also talk about other resources that inspired me about this work. So get educational when you think about homelessness. And the last point is the most important. Look up laws and policies that actually impact those who are unhoused. Look up Grant Pass versus Johnson. Look up any type of ordinances, whether food sharing ordinances, loitering ordinances, sleep and rest ordinances. There are a lot of cities now that are putting ordinance or a policy in place that prohibits people who are unhoused from actually sleeping outside, even if that city or state does not have enough accessible beds and resources for this population. We just heard, even on a federal level, the Supreme Court heard Grant Pass versus Johnson that actually came back and ruled to say, yeah, it's constitutional to punish those who are unhoused just for existing, right? For being outside, even if they don't have anywhere to go. And so I would really encourage you to look up, laws by cities, laws by state, and even laws that are national, right? Which is one I just referenced, to really understand what people who are experiencing homelessness have to go through with being targeted by political and social rhetoric, but also social stigma. You know, this Homelessness Awareness Month, if you are just thinking about, man, like, how can I make a difference? Just get involved. Like, start being proximate to communities that are vulnerable, especially this population of people. And I bet you, like, your heart will change, the way that you see a person will change, and you'll build some relationships along the way.